Ladies and gentlemen, here we are once again for the Split Peak Soup podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, my friend Jimbo Phillips. He's kind of a legendary artist around here. He comes from a family of artists, and he's bringing up a son who's an amazing artist as well. So, Jimbo, thanks for coming on. It's great to see you. What's new with you?
Oh, thanks. My pleasure, Neil. Yeah, stoked to be here. Just been working a lot, doing a lot of artwork. Just taking whatever comes at me. You know, I've been freelancing for the past 20 years, so just doing, you know, it's a little bit of everything. Some skateboards, some surf, some rock posters, a lot of different stuff. So it's always interesting and it's always fun too.
Yeah, I bet. And you had mentioned that you're freelancing. I'd assume that that's kind of a commonplace thing for an artist. I'm sure there's some sweet deals that come around every once in a while, but
Yeah.
has that been primarily how you've done things throughout your career for the most part? I know that you did work with, your dad with Santa Cruz and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's that look like for an artist such as yourself?
Yeah, I started. Well, I was lucky. I had a dad who was an artist, so he was doing art for a living all through my childhood, and so yeah, I basically drew all the time because that's just kind of what was happening in my house, and so I've been drawing since before I can even remember. But my dad was always a working artist. He was always kind of doing, magazine covers or artwork for payment. Basically, he's done some fine art stuff, but usually he was working on art under the to make money.
Yeah,
and I grew up kind of seeing that model as a lot. A lot of artists just grow up doing art and then selling it's kind of a secondary thing. Like maybe you sell it, maybe you don't. But my dad was always creating art for something.
right.
It was intended for something. Someone ordered this art, he's making it, and then it's gonna go where they need this art for commercial advertising purposes.
Yeah.
So I grew up under that kind of model. So that's kind of how I looked at art to an extent.
Yeah.
And so I graduated from high school, and I was basically just a surf rat. Didn't do well in school. Was partying, surfing every day. Just flaking on my responsibilities, basically. For surf and fun and stuff. And then my dad had an opportunity to work for him doing art. And so I seized the opportunity and just kind of hunkered down, kind of put surfing on the back burner, and just 9 to 5 focused on doing art every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that started out as, was that something, because I know that, Meekster was involved in that kind of, not a mentoring, but an apprenticeship kind of deal.
Yeah.
They had a name for it?
Yeah, it was Phillips Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad kind of started this studio. My dad worships Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney had Disney Studios, of course, where he had all these artists.
Right.
And he would tell them, his vision, and then all these artists would scramble around and make it happen.
Right.
So that my dad really loved that model, and he kind of tried to recreate it with skate art.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of work to do. So he hired me and probably 5 other artists to do a lot of the in-between stuff that he didn't have time to do.
Yeah.
So it was cool because we were making money and we were learning at the same time how to create professional art,
Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
That's way cool. And just, going back to your childhood, I come from a background of I love art. I love to cartoon, you know, drawing monsters. All my margins of my every school assignment I had were full of zombies and just like werewolves and all that kind of stuff. And like, one thing that I really appreciated, at least for myself as a kid, you know, like your dad's work, it was kind of like a lot of the times I remember spending hours just, you know, where's Waldo? Just fucking zoning out and looking at every little character or my Mad magazines and stuff like that. And, you know, your dad kind of tickled that same kind of itch for me when I was a little kid, looking at like, I don't know what it was. Was it like the Night Fighters lineup? It was like all the Santa Cruz surfers and that scene. And he had a really kind of cool style in that way where it was just so imaginative and like whimsical and, you know, sometimes cute and sometimes just, you know, super goofy. And, you know, besides your dad's art, were there any other kind of influences that you had as a kid? Because it seems to be kind of like the lane that you were brought into.
Right. I mean, Mad Magazine is funny you brought that up because that was definitely a big influence on my dad's art as well. Just the little hidden jokes or the little characters you see that you recognize and stuff. He incorporated a lot of that into his art, which I had later, you know, tried to do my version of it as well. But yeah, I mean, I grew up looking at his art, so that's definitely my biggest influence. But also the Mad Magazine stuff, and I was super into like the old monster movies when I was a kid, like Frankenstein and stuff. So I had those like monster magazines, you know, and I'd look at those endlessly. And then like comic books, you know, the Hulk and Spider-Man and all that stuff. And Sunday morning cartoons, that kind of stuff, you know. So kind of all that stuff from the late 70s, you know, was a lot of stuff I grew up on.
Yeah. Can you remember the first piece that or piece of artwork that you had that was used for something or published? Where did that all start for you?
Yeah, it's funny because that's kind of what kicked me off was my dad. Part of one of his projects he had with Santa Cruz Skateboards was to create a comic book.
Okay.
So he found probably 10 different artists to submit artwork into this comic book. Mm-hmm. And some people had 2 pages, some had 3, some had 4. And he gave me 4 pages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I created this comic book, and it was right out of high school. And I spent all this time on it and really enjoyed creating it. And then got a paycheck. It was like $50 a page or something. But I was like, wow, I had fun creating this and I got some money, you know? That was kind of a little spark for me to kind of, okay, like I could see how this could kind of happen. I've seen my dad do it, and now I've kind of tasted a little piece of it, you know, although it wasn't, you know, it probably came down to like $5 an hour or something,
sure,
how much or less,
right,
how much time I spent on it. But but still, it was like I had fun creating this, and I got a little reward at the end, so I was really jazzed on that.
And to see it published somewhere too.
Exactly. Then there's the reward of seeing it when it's finished, and then that's a whole nother reward that you get at the end when you get, you know, and you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, like there it is.
Yeah, for
Show
sure.
people and everyone's stoked and you get feedback. And
yeah, you got 10 copies in the back of your car somehow floating around. Oh, I just had one here. Go take it.
Yeah. So that's always kind of a little secondary reward you get from art is kind of the when you see it published or whatever it's intended for. On the skateboard or whatever, and you see it and you're like, oh,
right. So
you get that little secondary jolt from it. Like,
yeah. And going back to the Phillips art studio stuff, I know were you already friends with Meekster at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's your dad, like, how was he as a boss? Like, was he kind of like looking over you guys, making sure you're on task? Like, what was the environment in there? Because, you know, it probably could be a prime environment for, you know, slacking off, I guess, or just, you know, you're with your friends and you're trying to be serious, drawing monsters and shit, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool because I got to meet other artists that were kind of had same ambitions I had. And I had known Meekster from around the point and stuff, but I really got to know him well during that time, and we really became good friends. But the work environment was definitely, like you said, sometimes there was a tendency to like screw off or like joke around, or we'd be drawing like stuff that wasn't the assignment, your
titties. And
yeah. You're like, look at this, ha ha ha, on the side or whatever.
Yeah.
But also, my dad was pretty strict about getting stuff done on time, very, very deadline oriented. And so he was good at steering the ship. And he would also, he had his level of expectations that he wanted out of the art. And if it wasn't there, then you had to redo it. And sometimes we had to redo things like several times. Sometimes it just got thrown in the garbage, especially at first when we first started, you kind of like, oh, okay, like I got to really step up my game here,
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Yeah.
Would you say that one of your kind of like breakthrough pieces was at the Roscop deck there?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about the process of creating that, because correct me if I'm wrong, but your dad started with one before,
right,
and then you were kind of jumped into down the line of mutation that graphic
exactly.
went through.
Yeah, that was definitely a level up for me on that one, because it's funny because the original Roscop face, my dad was drawing artwork, and I had a blank skateboard he had got from the factory, and it hadn't been sanded or anything. It was just real rough, but I liked it because it was just kind of like it was a prototype kind of blank board, Yeah. It didn't have any paint on it it was just wood.
Yeah.
And so I was drawing on it and stuff and doodling around on it. I was like, oh yeah, I can do my own graphics, and I was drawing on the tail and everything. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to do a big face right in the middle, and I did this big, like, crazy face, with the mouth open and eyes bugging out and stuff. And I was like, Dad, check this out. And he's like, oh, that's cool. I like that. And I was like, oh, nice. And then I go to school, for like that week. And then I come home and he's like, check it out. I did my version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was the Roscop face. Like,
okay.
Yeah, the drawing. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was like,
just
blew my mind,
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But I was kind of stoked because I felt like, as a kid, I had kind of like inspired him a little bit.
Yeah.
With my just raw kid kind of throwing out ideas or whatever. And
totally.
And so, and then probably it was probably about 7 years later when I started work for him, 7 or 8 years. And then the opportunity came to do the next Roscop. The Roscop was always known for like the evolution of the graphic.
Right.
So I was like, well, the face has to have an evolution too, right? So it's like the next phase would be cool if it was like melting, So I drew that up and pitched it to my dad, and he gave me the thumbs up, and he's like, yeah, you should do it. And
sick.
Yeah. So yeah, I sunk my teeth into that one. And that was definitely a big like jumping hurdle for me to achieve that.
Yeah. And then, that's where you probably were starting to see your art in maybe like a skateboard magazine or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
On a bigger stage.
Right. Yeah. Like at first you just, he'd be like, oh, draw this lettering. And it would be like at the bottom of like a catalog or something.
Yeah.
You like flip through the catalog and you're like, oh, there's my lettering at the bottom, or something like that. But then, once I did that skateboard, it was like showing up in Thrasher magazine and stuff like that. I was like, oh, wow. Like
that's bitching.
Yeah. It's super cool.
That's way rad.
Yeah. And that just kind of juices your like enthusiasm and your inspiration to kind of, oh, what else can I do now? And
yeah,
it's art's cool like that. It kind of motivates you, with your own art.
Definitely. And one thing that I was gonna, kind of ask you about was with the skateboard graphics. Is that something that is like, are you given an idea before, or do you have to talk with the team writer about what they want, or like, I just kind of the chicken before or the egg type of thing. Like, what comes first? Is the artist see something, or the rider see something, or is that even their decision at the end of the day?
Yeah, sometimes the rider will come in with an idea, and if it's a good idea, you're lucky, you know, like they tell you the idea and you're like, oh yes, but sometimes they tell you an idea and you're like, ooh, I don't know about that, you know?
Yeah.
And so maybe sometimes you have to kind of steer them in the right direction. You're like, well, what about if we tweaked it a bit and maybe went this direction?
Totally.
But then there's also the guys that just have no idea, and you just kind of pull something out of the blue.
Yeah.
And so one time, Christian Hosoi wanted a new skateboard, and he had really no idea of what he wanted. So me and like 3 of the other artists in the studio, we just, for like a week, we just combed magazines and books looking for ideas, and we just compiled probably at least like 30 sketches each. We just had like a ton of ideas. You were just like, what about this? What about that? What about this? And just like anything you could think of to, you know, try and nail this. Because Christian Hosoi was basically the biggest skater in the world at the time.
Yeah, there had to be a little bit of pressure. You're like, fuck, I don't want Mr. Hosoi, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like, fuck.
Yeah. And then we were all kind of competing too because there was only, you know, the one board.
Right.
And so we were all kind of trying to get that board. And he ended up picking one I had drew. It was like, it's the Picasso board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That was the one.
That's a sick one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's class. It's like totally different than anything that had really been done at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So that was neat.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
And then, you know, kind of transitioning from your work with the Phillips Art Studio, were you kind of like, was that, you know, I'm not exactly sure, you know, when that all ended, but, you know, there was a definite transitionary time in skateboarding and skateboard graphics. Did Santa Cruz at some point kind of like, you know, say, okay, we've done these cartoon stuff for a long time now, and it made them a lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Right.
And I'm probably in the 90s, was there like a little transitionary time, and where did you go on to do other things? I know that you're really involved with like Fat Records, their artwork for, you know, they're a record label.
Yeah.
So you started doing other things, I would imagine, branching out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So in the right when the 90s started, my dad, NHS, they moved to the cannery. They'd upgraded to a bigger facility. And so they're like, well, the art studio is going to be at the facility, because up until then it was at this house next to my dad's house.
Right.
And so they're like, the art studio is going to be there. And my dad was basically like, no, I'm not working in a warehouse.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So I was kind of like, well, I don't know. My dad got me this job, you know, because they had offered, they're like, you can come over to the warehouse. And I really wanted to, but at the same time, I wanted to be loyal to my dad. So I just was like, I'm going to bow out with him.
Yeah.
And so probably 90, 91, we stopped working for NHS, and they kind of moved on from all those old graphics.
Right.
And they went with a whole new look, and
Yeah.
they kind of went into the new school, small wheels, simple graphics. Yeah, it was just kind of a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
And basically even got rid of the red dot.
Yeah.
No screaming hand, none of that old stuff. Went in a completely different direction.
Yep.
And at the same time, the skateboard industry was kind of it was changing. You know? It was still doing okay, but there was big companies were kind of not doing as well, and then little companies were doing really well.
Right.
So there's all these kind of little companies shooting up. It was really like an upstart time of skateboarding.
Yeah.
And I kind of started just freelancing. I probably took like about, you know, some time off and was surfing and skating again, and getting back into my lifestyle, you know. But then I was like, okay, I gotta keep a hold of this before I just, like, you know, forget all that I've learned over these last couple years. You know? So I started hammering away again, and it was basically like, I need to keep this time, you know, like all day, every day, I'm gonna work on art. And then when there's time after work, then maybe I'll go surf or skate or something to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe in the morning early or something, but I really have to like regiment myself. Otherwise nothing's going to get done. So
totally,
I took that approach. And then I just started doing stuff for, I had friends that were starting construction companies, things like that. Just little jobs, anything I could take really that would keep me busy.
Yeah.
And luckily there was enough stuff to just kind of propel me along, you know. Things were cheaper back then too, you know.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I didn't need to make as much too, so that was cool. And yeah, I just kept kind of snowballing along. And then, you know, a little bit of notoriety from working with Santa Cruz helped too.
Yeah.
You know, people knew what I'd done and
right.
stuff like that. So yeah, I got a couple record things from Fat Records. I did No Use for Names album cover in 95, I think. And that was a good milestone for sure. That brought in other bands and stuff that were looking for artwork.
Yeah.
And kind of you do something like that gets attention, and then people see it and they're like, oh, I have a band, I need something. And it just kinda, it snowballs your art along. And so that really helped at that time to keep things busy for sure.
You get into people's kind of like, you know, zone of awareness, I guess. And
right.
Only creating more stuff will do that. And so, yeah, your dad, like he was super active with making like posters for rock concerts and stuff like that. And I know that that's something that you've really enjoyed doing. I mean, you're a musician. You're obviously a lover of music. Are there any ones that stand out to you? I know one that I always loved it. I think, God, was it Lost Cause or Blast or something, where it's like the punk rock concert, and then there's this chick, and she was a cartoon, but I'm like, dude, that chick's fucking hot, big old tits, and like it's not demonic.
The devil like, chick,
yeah. She's like, come on in. And
yeah,
like,
totally.
That was fucking such a pissed off, like such a perfect punk rock concert, like flyer. So you know, I guess you're making a logo for a product, you know, a skater or something, or like a logo or whatever, but those seem kind of like fun, kind of more or less one-off type of deals,
right,
where you can kind of just go off.
What
have been your experience with doing that, and are you still making art for like concerts and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, one thing I always loved about skateboard art was there was kind of this you know, it's like a product you're getting paid for, but also that they want something really rad, you know, they want something gnarly. They want something that's going to like hit people in the face, you know, like, so there's always kind of this, what can I do that's going to be like rad and grab people's attention? So I've always kind of been like searching for those images, you know, it's not just, you know, a pretty landscape, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but just for the skateboard culture really propels that. And that was just kind of my motivation, was just kind of like, I want to like really punch people in the face with my art, you know?
Totally.
You know, so skateboarding had that. And then when I discovered like flyers and rock posters, it kind of had a similar thing.
Sure.
And sometimes even more so, like they want something just really like gut punching for grab people's attention, you know, get the punks and the metalheads to like, oh yeah, that's badass.
Yeah.
You know?
Visceral reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So I was always drawn to that kind of art, and the rock posters really motivated that style.
Yeah, totally.
So I was always just kind of drawn to that. And then as you're drawn to it, they're drawn to your art as well. So that, you know, people, I need a poster for, you know, this show that's coming up. And right around the late 90s, early 2000s, really had a lot of stuff going. There was a lot of shows, and it was pre-internet, and really like the flyer thing was huge. You know, you had the flyer, all the polls,
right? You
know, so there was no Instagram to advertise your show. It was all the old school, make flyers, hand them out to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
hire a Grom or something to go
Exactly.
like, post 100 of them up.
Yeah, and the music scene was really pumping then.
Oh yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff going on. And the bands were like, "Oh, I need a shirt, I need a flyer," and
Yeah.
so it was a fun time for sure.
And you're a talented musician yourself.
Oh, thanks.
You've played a lot. I know that you had the "I Don't Want to Hear It" kind of cover band before that. Were you involved in other bands before that I might not remember or be aware of?
Yeah, we had a band called The Undecided. That was our first band, and we played under Lost Cause kind of when they were coming up a bit.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they were like our first show. We played with them at the downtown, the Red Room and stuff like that.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, and music was just kind of something I fell into almost accidentally. A friend had a guitar, and we had been hanging out, and he was doing some riffs or something, and I started like beating on a coffee cup or something, and then he's like, "Dude, you should get a drum set." And I was like, "Okay." And so I bought a drum set. Next thing I knew, we were like making songs, and then like probably a year later, we started playing parties, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was a blast,
Totally.
And never really got anywhere with it, but I've always loved it and had fun with it, so I just kind of kept doing it. And I still have a band to this day. We call it El Normbo, a couple buddies. And
cool.
Yeah, we just played down at the downtown at the Jury Room.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that I've seen this time and time again, but it's like once a band tries to like make it or whatever or become like established, it's just like it can kind of suck the piss out of the fun machine or whatever, and egos collide, and it's just like seems like can kind of be a nightmare. So I would probably for me, I've always been I play guitar, I like to sing, but I never really had a huge opportunity to take it anywhere with that. But at the same time, I'm almost glad because it can be kind of like all consuming, and such a hard thing to make it in anyways that, it seems like there's a lot of sacrifice to follow that carrot,
For sure. Well, yeah, music it's a hard thing to make a living at for sure. You really have to grind. You have to play for free a lot, and you got to tour a lot, and you're kind of reliant on other people for your creative outlet, which is hard because they have their own agendas and ideas, and sometimes those don't always mix. And so you could get someone that's like, "Oh, we're gonna make it," and you're like, "Oh, I just want to do this for fun," and then that right there could be kind of a clash, two different motivations,
right?
And so I'm lucky I never really thought of it about trying to make it as a musician. I always just did it for fun, which helped me have fun, because I had art, which was my main outlet, and I didn't have to rely on anyone to do that, so it never really sucked the fun out of it. It's always been fun for me because it's just me and my art.
Right.
So if I had to work with somebody I was clashing with, that could, that can kind of sometimes take the fun out of it,
Yeah. So. Well, that's great that, it's continuing to this day to be something that, it can bring you joy and fun, like I love writing, and it's become, not a full-time job, but it's definitely something that, I don't know, just like I have some attention deficit issues, or like issues, and also
I actually do too. It's funny. But when I sink into the art, it helps me kind of get over that, like
that's rad. Yeah. And I think to an extent that can happen with me as well, but I've also got some chronic pain issues. So, sitting for an extended amount of time coupled with these attention kind of issues, just sitting down and focusing on something that, it might not in that, it really does help, like you said, to have an assignment or something. Because I've been writing a book for the past 3 years. It's about a kid who he wants to be a sponsored surfer, and he's his dad was like a pro surfer, and that all he wants like to be a cool kid and get a sponsor, but he can't do it. But he ends up meeting it's actually an interdimensional demon who poses as a surfboard shaper who wants to sponsor the kid, and he gets him his first surfboard and his first sponsor, and so the kid starts riding the surfboard and he starts ripping and getting all these other sponsors. But, at the same time, his personality starts to change. And so it's kind of this kind of like, anyways, that's besides
kind of careful what you wish for.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of isn't informed by growing up, on Pleasure Point and with surfing and, wanting to be sponsored and be a cool kid and seeing that, the pitfalls that are involved in that. But anyways, I've been writing it for 3 years and it's like, dude, I don't know. I have so much fun when I'm doing it, but like to carve out the time, and it's because no one's saying like, you've got a deadline, it's kind of like, I can kick the can down the road a little bit. Is there any like, I would say that a big book for me would be kind of like my magnus opus. Is there anything that you've been working on for a really long time that you just haven't had the discipline or the kind of the motivation to get done? Or are you pretty much line them up, knock them down type of guy?
It's funny because I do have I'm trying to do a book as well, but it's more of just a collection of all the art I've done over the years. Yeah. But also I want to write in it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of aspects to it, the writing, the collecting of the art, and just the time of putting it all together. And then I have my, my artwork assignments that I have to get done. Right. So it keeps getting put off. So I have a book I want to put out next year. And I've noticed I've been having trouble finding the time to work on it, but really trying to carve that out for myself so I can get it done.
Cool. And other than like a deadline or something, like what are some things that help you kind of get in the zone, whether it be music, caffeine, environment, or whatever? Like what's your kind of like recipe for motivation for being a disciplined artist?
Yeah, definitely music. That's number one for sure. Got to kind of set the mood a little bit. I like some coffee. Maybe a little puff or something. Yeah. And just kind of really like sometimes you just got to kind of stare at it for a little while and kind of see where you got to go with it. Other times you know exactly where you're at in it, and our art can be kind of vague like that. Sometimes you don't always know where you're at kind of in the process and until you're totally in the like it's kind of at the beginning when you're like sketching and trying to figure out the composition, and there's a lot of variables and you're like, I could do this, I could do that. And then you really have to just like pick a lane, and then just like hammer away at that,
charge it.
Yeah. So once you get in the like narrowed down to the exactly what you're gonna do, then you can really get in there and just kind of start knocking away the hours, because the vision's already in your head, right? But it's like finding that vision at first can be, they're like, oh, I need a sketch, and maybe they give you a couple ideas and you might have a few pieces of paper you're like looking at, this one's kind of cool, this one's okay, and you're trying to like narrow it down. Totally. Yeah. So that can be tricky. And also, your time's a little more, you're not kind of just hammering away on the art as much. You're kind of like deciding, and it can be a little distracting because you're not, in the zone as much. You're kind of like, I have this idea, I have that idea. And then maybe you have a whole nother project. Oh, I could work on that project, and kind of floating around. And sometimes I'm like, man, what did I get done today?
Yeah. Well, I guess, it all ends up coming out in the wash, your process. And I think you can probably trust that, you've been doing this for quite some time.
I trust the process now. I used to beat myself up about it a little more. Now I kind of know how it works. So I give myself that leeway of kind of floating around on top of it a bit for a while before you really like jump into it,
Yeah. And with art, like it just seems like one of those things where if you're a perfectionist, it can probably be really hard to like be like, okay, that's it, I can walk away now. Like, do you ever find yourself like going like, oh fuck, that guy's finger could be bent at a little bit more of an angle, or there could be like three more veins in that guy's forehead.
Oh,
you know?
definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's crazy too with computers because you can zoom in, and you like zoom out and you're like, oh, it looks great. And then you zoom in, you're like, oh crap, I gotta work on all this stuff.
Right.
And so, it can be hard sometimes to know when to call it,
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten better at it over the years, but, and also like with a deadline too, sometimes you just run out of time.
Yeah.
So you try and schedule your time so you have enough time to do everything you want to do. But there are times when it's just kind of like, oh, time's up.
Yeah.
Turn it in.
Just kind of pray that they don't notice that one thing that you did.
Right.
But I mean, as an artist, there's, it can be maddening, extremely frustrating, like with looking at your art and the self-doubt and stuff like that. How have you dealt with that in the past, like self-doubt and, like just wondering, am I good enough?
Right. Well, I mean, my dad had set the bar super high, so I've always compared myself to, what he's done and stuff, which is hard because, he's a master, so
yeah,
it can be tricky for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, try and carve out my own lane a bit, and I'm not him, I don't do exactly what he does. I do my stuff,
Right. Yeah.
So, try and stick true to that,
Right. So surfboards, you're a great surfer yourself, and surfing's probably, a big part of your life. I remember I was working at and sponsored by Schrodel Surf Shop, and that first batch, you just made some fucking sick
those are fun.
Dude, those boards were so rad. It really, obviously it had your own style in it, but it reminded me of Drew Brophy's stuff for like Lost.
Right.
I guess maybe, because that's one of the only other guys that was doing that. But, describe that experience for you, being able to bring something that you had learned how to do for skateboarding, which I'm assuming is another passion of yours, but then be able to bring it on a surfboard, is what was that experience like, and what were the challenges and the benefits of working on that kind of canvas?
Yeah, excuse me. Working on surfboards is a lot of fun. It's a big canvas. You can really, I'm sorry. Do you have a little water?
Yeah.
I got to try it out.
It's got electrolytes in it. There you go. Sick.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, bro.
Surfboards are really fun to work on. I started off painting on the foam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So you'd paint on the foam and then glass over it.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so I had a friend, Jeff Lindell. I don't know if you know him. He was
real familiar.
He was like a backyard shaper kid, and he lived on my street.
Yeah.
And he was shaping boards, and he was getting into it. And he had a little shaping shed he built in his backyard. And he was like, "Oh, will you paint some boards for me?" So
yeah,
I was like, "Oh yeah." So we painted probably like 6 boards.
Okay.
And all in the foam.
Acrylic?
Yeah, like acrylic, just paintbrush, and then I use kind of like sometimes I use one of those little rollers and kind of roll the outline around.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Yeah, so we use that, and then we did these 6 boards, and they gradually got like more crazy as they went on. Like we started off kind of just like, let's do something cool, and then as the boards went on, we were getting like crazier and crazier. And he was going to put these boards in Santa Cruz Surf Shop.
Okay.
Yeah. And cool. So, there was one that was like that was kind of violent. It had like blood and stuff. And then there was one that was like really sexual, and he put the boards in the shop, and they were like, dude, we were getting complaints on these boards.
Classic.
Yeah. So he had to like yank like a couple of the boards, but he ended up selling them to other people that appreciated it.
Yeah, sure.
But it was funny, just kind of our first little foray into the surf market can definitely be more conservative.
Right.
I was kind of taking the skate mentality of just like, let's go gnarly, and then like surfers were like, "Whoa, man, that's too crazy.
Yeah.
I want some flowers." And
Yeah,
stuff, you know?
right, sure, totally. Fuck.
So we had to tone it down a bit. But then later on, you brought up Drew Brophy, because he kind of, I don't know if he invented it, but he really made it popular, a painting right on the fiberglass, which was way better because the board is already glass, so it's stronger. You can't really ding it, or because, working on the foam, it was like you could
sketchy.
Yeah, you could get it dirty, you could ding it.
Yeah.
Like we had all kinds of little incidents with boards
sure,
doing it that way. So drawing on the glass was way better.
Okay, cool.
And he's, as far as I know, the first one that had done that with the Posca pens.
Yeah.
Posca pens were like all the rate. Like, you got to get these Posca pens.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay. And so got those, tried that, and I was like, oh my God, this is night and day. It's way quicker, way easier. The pens just glide on the fiberglass. Working on foam, it like absorbs. It's like a sponge.
Right. Fading, I would imagine, would be freaking hard. Like
and your
airbrush would get easier, but with your
airbrush,
hand, you're like, fuck. Like,
I'd done some airbrush stuff too, but that's a whole ball of wax. The airbrush clogs up and you got to clean it.
Oh yeah.
So then we were like paint brushing, but then the paint would like absorb into the foam. And so once you got to the Poscas, it was like, oh, this is really smooth and easy. Really took to that. And then I did a bunch of boards for Schrodel at that time when he opened a shop. Yeah. And that was fun. And that was really like sinking my teeth into that whole Posca pen world. And I had a blast doing that.
Yeah. They were expensive though, those pens, weren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Remember? Yeah. And like cost benefit analysis, like back then surfboards were a lot cheaper, but like, was that something that maybe you could, run into? Like, is this worth my time? Like, it seems like a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well, it's funny because I'd done those boards for Schrodel, and then Stretch was like, oh, can you come paint some boards over at my factory? And I was like, oh yeah, I could, I was like, really like kind of hyped on painting boards and stuff, and it was basically like $20 a board.
Oh God,
to paint a board.
Oh, fuck.
And so that
ain't like, cutting it.
No, that ain't cutting it at all. So you're getting down to really just nitty gritty, like, and then basically I found myself trying to whip out the boards as quick as humanly possible. Like not really giving them the love I usually do. Because the pay was cheap and the time was tight, so I was just like, $20, okay, I got to do it in an hour. So I was just like, like speeding through it and
sacrificing quality.
Exactly. Yeah. And then he was like, called me back in there. He's like, dude, I don't know about this board. And I was like, well, you paid me $20, dude. I don't know what you expect.
Right. Totally.
So then I was like, I'm over this. I need to go back to my artwork and
fully.
Yeah. But it was a fun little I like going into these different like realms of art and figuring out the techniques and the style and everything. So it's fun.
Totally. And, talking about like, rate of pay and efficiency and all that stuff, as a writer, it's starting to kind of enter my, my perception or, my understanding of that there's this whole thing with AI. And that's, creating, it's like commodifying something that used to be really rare, which is like creativity and like human spirit. What are your kind of thoughts about AI and how has it affected the way you work? And is it something that you could find as an ally? Because I have been resistant to people say, well, you edit it with AI. And I'm like, fuck that, dude. Like, I'm not letting the robots win this one. But at the same time, it's like the other day, my dad's like, why don't you just try it? And I threw one of my articles in there and, it came out with some good suggestions. I didn't really use any of them, but then it also came out with some fucking whack stuff. And I'm like, dude, so it seems like there's a long way to go, but is that something that scares you, like AI art?
Yeah. When it first came out, I was pretty like, whoa, like, cause, when they first said, oh, AI is coming, but, art will be the last thing it goes after, and actually it was the first thing.
Yeah,
it was the very first thing. It seemed like all I saw was just AI art everywhere, everything. I was just like, oh my god, dude, there goes my job. Just
boy,
yeah,
scary.
The first couple months I was kind of tripping. I was like, dude, this could be the end of it, and then but then I kind of realized, I was like, it has a look and people can recognize it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to get better, and it still is a force to be reckoned with, but I think for the most part, people want human art and human writing and human music.
Yes.
And I mean, that's the soul and the creativity and the imperfections that your eye almost needs that. Like if it's too perfect, there, your eye kind of almost tells you there's something wrong with it,
Yeah, the uncanny valley. That's that. That's when they with a doll or like one of those sex robots or something, where it's like okay, well that looks close enough to be human, but there's just something a little bit wrong with it that the brain just goes like, no,
right,
fuck. Like maybe that comes from your like soul or something, because it's like a really visceral type of like rejection of like, whoa, like that is like not like that's not right, or whatever, So
yeah, and we're entering into a time when there's a lot of stuff is becoming fake, like there's just fake this and fake that.
Yeah, right.
And like I grew up in a time when everything was real, like everything, like people had to like work hard and create things, blood, sweat, and tears. And now everything's just like created on this whim, like really push of a button, and oh, there it is, and,
right.
And so I really reject that, but at the same time, it's also inevitable, and it's coming whether we like it or not. And so I feel like maybe there will be ways to find ways to use it to your advantage. I haven't done that yet, but I'm trying to stay open-minded, and not just like totally lock up about it.
I know I've had like weird ass thoughts too, like if AI takes over, Skynet's gonna be initiated, and then because I'm an artist now, or I'm a creative where I use my mind to like, then these robots aren't gonna have that little spark that they need, so then they're gonna fucking come after me and harvest my brain tissue to use for their like then they'd have what they needed,
Right.
So that's scary, I guess.
Well, it's like how many science fiction movies started off this way, like, oh, it's all fun, and you can draw pictures with it, and then 5 years later the robots are marching in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's spooky, man. It's
well, now, there's the AI aspect, and then there's also the actual robots that they're creating, which the AI will be controlling, and I don't know. It is kind of a crazy, scary future,
right? Yeah,
and I'm hoping people like the internet. They kind of like release the internet, and then later on they're like, oh, whoa, we need to regulate this. It's like humans do this a lot. They create things, but then they don't think of the aftermath of it.
Right.
Like even plastic. We created plastic. Oh, it's this great invention, and now it's like polluting the planet.
Yeah.
So it's like they really need to like, when something's created, you need to think of where can this go? What is, how can we curb this later result that's going to come?
Yes. Yeah. I was actually talking about this with my last guest. His name's Ethan Estes. He's a marine ocean art activist type of dude. And I just mentioned, like, cause he's, really interested in sustainability and saving the environment and all that killer stuff. Yeah. But I was thinking, I was like, fuck, like there's other cultures where it's, Native Americans, probably some Asian ones, probably a lot of, off the top of my head, I can't think of, but it's like their lives are like revolved around, navigating the world in a way that will, maybe not benefit them so much as like the next generation, their generation after that. It's like building planting a tree or something, it's like we're in a culture where it's like, fuck, dude, people are chopping trees down to build their ADU on or something. They're not like it's to benefit them, right? In that moment and stuff.
Right.
So that it's really, it is scary. And, just in the in the vein of talking about the next generation, I wanted to just mention that your son Colby is getting, some really good recognition and skill with his art.
Yeah.
What's that been like to pass the baton down to another generation?
Oh yeah, man, it's been great to see him step into it. He's always had the talent. I knew. Both my kids are talented artists. My daughter's a photographer. That's kind of her outlet. And my son, he's been drawing Screaming Hands since he was like, able to hold a pencil basically.
Yeah. Fully.
And I could always tell, I was like, he's got the little knack,
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of come in and out of motivation and inspiration on it. It's, sometimes he's like, oh, well, I had my dad to live up to, and he's got, my dad and me.
Right. Yeah.
But he's got into the tattoo world.
Okay.
Which
sweet.
is cool because it's not really a world either, I haven't or my dad hasn't delved into too much. And it's really like a whole nother world that he's kind of free to roam without, he has the influence of the skate world that's respected and everything, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's a whole new
he can forge his own path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's not. He's got his own path to forge, and it's given him freedom. I feel like, and in that freedom, he's been able to express a little better of his art, and and it's really his art's been really coming out the last couple of years. He's apprenticing at Nolan's Social Club on the end of 41st.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they have a really high tattoo standard in there.
Yeah.
So he's learning from some really good guys.
Fully.
Yeah, and he's learning all the ins and outs of how to set up, and he's going to learn techniques and everything. So I'm
That's
excited
cool.
for him. Yeah.
Dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes me think of this I think Nikos De La Rosa, he's in there. He's a great artist. But
they have a lot of good guys.
And then the peripheral kind of, talking about kind of my generation, maybe a little bit younger, but there's the Made Fresh crew.
Oh, right.
Which I know that you're involved in. And so, yeah, as, someone who's been in this Santa Cruz art world for so long, like what's it like now seeing other guys like like Taylor, Reinhold's amazing, and they're doing it, dude.
Right.
They're fucking making
making
it as artists, which is like a super scary, hard thing to do, and also too, like like who would have thought that like taggers and these guys who are like, oh, that's it's a menace to society and all this stuff. And like, but these guys are, obviously probably shifted their kind of approach. And I do know that a lot of like tagger guys who are, kind of coming up during your generation, basically like maybe they weren't advertising their handle, but they were making some money doing signs and murals and stuff like that. So what's your kind of experience been working with guys like Taylor and the Made Fresh crew?
Oh yeah, they're great crew of people. Taylor especially, I've really connected with him, and the mural thing's a little new to me, but I really enjoy it. I've done over the years, friends' walls and a couple big things here and there, but then the Pangea Seed sponsored the Ocean Awareness Mural Festival a couple years back. Yeah. And I got in on that, and I did the wall down at Lens Arts, and that was really fun. It was a whole different medium for me, working really big like that. Yeah. And I really had a blast doing it. And Taylor and some of his crew came out, helped me out, and showed me little tricks and stuff, and I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun, and we've been staying in contact. And he has the similar drive I have, except mine was basically for skate and rock art and stuff. But he's the same, except like murals. He's just like focused on murals. Where can I find another mural to do? Yeah. And there's a lot of, they have funding for it, and people have big budgets for it. So it's cool. You could tap into that, and he's able to make a career out of just basically doing walls all the time, which is awesome.
It's definitely really cool. And what would you say, like, what was that learning curve for you? You said, those guys were around to kind of like guide you and stuff like that, but like, what's the difference? I mean, like,
Well,
what's
like,
the hardest part of working on that scale?
Yeah. So getting it up on the wall is like a process. That's like, you got to project it on there, or you got to grid it out, so you got to kind of plan accordingly with your drawings, how it's going to fit on this big surface.
Right.
And then, the application of paint, you got rollers, you got paint brushes, and then spray cans. It's like that's a whole nother technique and extension of your hand,
Right.
So, but there's like subtleties with like the
Spray control.
The spray control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like how hard you spray it and how you pull back and forward. And I didn't know a lot of that stuff. I was just kind of old school rattle can, like, like spraying it on there. So Taylor kind of showed me, if you point it down, you get like a fade going down, or if you get close and like, let off on the finger, you get a little tighter line. Right. So I learned a lot of those little techniques and stuff. So that was cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself doing more of that stuff in the future?
Yeah. I just did a wall in Pleasure Pizza.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't do spray cans because it was indoors.
Right.
And they were making pizza. I didn't want to like fumigate the room.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just did old school paintbrushes, which I'm pretty comfortable with that. So
okay, yeah, sick.
Yeah.
That's way rad.
Yeah, it was fun, getting it big on the wall, and you really like get into the little details because everything's so big, so and then you stand back, you're like, oh, okay, so that was fun.
What about other mediums? Like this was a huge part of the time that you grew up, as the shift in things went to digital art, but
right.
Have you ever considered doing any like moving digital art, like cartoons, or like more longer, like what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I'd love to get into that. I mean, I've always loved cartoons, and I've done a few kind of I guess you'd call them like a GIF or something, kind of where it's
right,
it's sits still but it kind of moves, kind of animate it. The eyes could pop out or something.
Right, yeah.
But it would be cool to get into like a whole story, like.
Yeah, what was it? Hyper Studio? Is that one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Where you could like create GIFs or something.
Right,
like that.
right.
It was like super like, it was like a flip book kind of, but like a digital one. But I'm sure that there's probably a bunch of like technology and like programs you'd have to learn for that.
Right.
So maybe get AI on the case.
Right.
Be like, hey, here's my graphics. Art. Here's a story.
Yeah, there you go.
Go for it.
Yeah. But, totally.
Yeah.
I know. I used to love the old, remember the animation festivals downtown?
Yeah.
I used to go to those all the time, and that was pre-digital stuff, and I always loved that outlet. And that was kind of a time when I was like, oh, I'd love to do some animation, but at the time it was just like this giant task,
Yeah.
Now it is easier with computers. The computers can, you can frame things together a lot easier, and it does streamline a lot of things. So
yeah. And then just to kind of project a little bit in the future, I know that your dad, I was just curious, like, I know probably your dad's got into more fine art stuff since he's been retired, but how do you, does he still do like one-off gigs or stuff like that, or is he kind of just like, I'm done? How do you make that transition as an artist where your hand doesn't fall off,
right?
Your brain's still probably going,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure he's compelled to create, or is that something that burns out? I don't know. I'm sure it's different for everybody.
Yeah, he's very creative. Even if he's not doing art, he'll find a way to make it creative. He's doing a lot of cement work in his yard.
Okay.
And he's making like these pathways, and it'll just be like creative somehow. I'll look at it, I'll be like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah.
And he'll have like this little area where it's kind of like if you ever gone to Disneyland, you see like those rocks, but they're fake.
Right.
He was making like fake rocks, basically, like out of cement, but painting them.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is this a real rock?
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard to tell,
Yeah. Well, maybe he's just doing more stuff for himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
He's not taking on any deadlines or anything like that. So he's just kind of doing what he wants, and
Yeah.
he'll draw stuff or paint something here and there. He's not super, driving the deadline thing, but
Yeah.
he's always, his creativity always comes out somehow.
Sure, sure. And, he's, like yourself, has just created so much damn art over all the years. And do you ever see yourself like, retiring from commercial art? I'm sure, it's everybody's goal is to kind of like get that freaking kind of dog collar off their neck at some point. But I don't know. It's just, I'm also a yoga teacher, and I feel like at some point, like that would be something that I would retire from. But then I would go like, well, dude, it's like I'm helping people and it feels good, or like I like writing articles that people read, So
yeah,
I don't know. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, it's funny because I have people that are my age and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna retire next year, or whatever, or they already retired.
Right.
I'm just like, dude, I don't feel like I'm anywhere near retiring.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it would be cool to like not have deadlines and just work on like paintings or something, and just do whatever I want.
Right.
No one telling you what to do.
For sure.
So that's something to look forward to as well. So
yeah,
I'm not against it totally, but at the same time, I don't feel like I'm close to retiring. So kind of just see how it goes,
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that you don't have that much free time for it, but what kind of art, like fine art stuff, has kind of drawn you in over the years? And is there any one thing that you've been really proud of that you never sold to anybody?
I really like working with acrylic paints, like on canvases or wood panels, that kind of thing. I could see doing more of that kind of stuff. I've done some series here and there. I'll kind of get into a groove and do like 3 or 4, and I usually end up selling them. And then you do an art show and then they sell, and then they're like, oh, we want you to do another art show. And I'm like, oh, I sold everything. So
yeah, right. Totally.
So it's kind of hard because, with the graphic art, you have the art and you can reproduce it any way you want. But when you do an original painting, once that painting sells, I mean, you can take a picture of it and sometimes use that, but at the same time, just that original piece is just one. And then once that's gone, you don't have another original piece. So
the window closes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely more of a something you got to stay up on, So I could see spending some time doing that would be fun.
Totally.
Do some more art shows.
Yeah, it probably kind of veers into that same territory as I was describing with my book. It's like a creative thing where it's like, fuck, I'm not working on it as much as I could be, because when I do sit down to write, it's like I'm doing it for an assignment or something. So you can risk burnout, and I think that's something that you have to be aware of.
For sure. Yeah.
And what other things do you do to keep art fresh and fun for you? Maybe taking on an assignment that you would step out of your comfort zone, or does that kind of stuff ever come up, or is it pretty standard issue?
No, I get pushed outside my comfort zone pretty often. I feel like it's good to do that. It stretches your art a bit, and there's always when you're doing like posters or graphics, there's always specifications and specs that you gotta adhere to. So that stuff always kind of keeps you on your toes, because you got to pay attention of the measurements, and you can't just do any size you want. You got to kind of make it fit, and things like that. So that kind of helps keep you thinking, and keeps you on your toes a bit,
Definitely.
Yeah, but also I like it'd be fun to just dabble with, I don't know, resin or wood, or just go off on some whole other, sculpture or something, and
totally,
because art has so many facets and you can never master all of them.
Right.
I have my zone I stay in, which I'm pretty good at, but there's like tons of other kinds of art that, I haven't even attempted yet. And so it would be cool to, apply what I've learned so far to these other mediums and see how that comes out, and there's a lot of art that can be done.
Who who are your like favorite artists currently, you know, and historically, like who really inspires you to create? And yeah, like,
I mean, I grew up, you know, like I said, with Mad Magazine and stuff, but I really like the old like surf artists like Rick Griffin and Wilbur Kookmeyer guy.
Yeah,
And then,
for sure.
also, Big Daddy Roth. He did like the Hot Rod Monsters.
Yeah,
You know?
Rat Fink and
Yeah,
stuff.
Rap Fink and all that stuff. And then like Zap Comics, there was like Robert Crumb.
Yeah.
And it was always like funny, but really well drawn, you know, and lots of detail
And deep too, like his stuff was deep.
Oh
like,
yeah.
As a kid, I didn't really understand it, and I've like come back and like looked at his stuff. I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah,
like,
it was
this guy
like,
was pushing the freaking envelope.
Yeah,
hard.
I mean, it was drawn for adults.
Yeah,
know, but we'd look at it as kids.
Totally.
And, you know, maybe sometimes there'd be like boobs or something. You're like, oh my god, look.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah, totally.
And things like that, and you know, just think, you know, it really like kind of kick you in the face of, you know, like what was possible, you know, because we'd never seen that. And so yeah, some of those old artists that push the boundaries, you know, like that were very inspirational.
Totally.
And then, you know, there's a lot of great new artists out there, you know, that are doing skate and surf art and stuff. Like we said, Drew Brophy, he's always been an inspiration. And yeah, some of those classic guys, Phil Roberts, and you know, some of those dudes that used to do the old like Surfer magazine covers with the pros, you know, and remember some of those scenes that, those are always great.
And like locally here we've got Kevin Walsh.
Oh yeah,
He's kind of in your similar kind of lane. He's got his own different style with his fine art and stuff like that, but he's forging his path by similar shit, you know, skateboard arts, surfboards, and you know, rock posters and stuff like that. It's cool to see him kind of continue to do his thing. His stuff is fucking unreal. I don't know if you've been to his studio, but it's like some of his fine art stuff is just like wicked, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so
that's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of great local artists. I mean, Santa Cruz is just like a breeding ground for artists. Yeah, like when those open studios come around, it's like you're like, wow, there's that many artists in Santa Cruz. It's
totally. Yeah, me and Shane Rafferty was on a couple episodes ago, and we were just talking about Santa Cruz as this hotbed of like creativity, whether it's, you know, the way that guys surf or the way that they, you know, skateboard or play music. And like, you know, I think a lot of, especially with like our generation, I'm in maybe a generation or two below you, but it was all real influenced by like punk rock music, and just this kind of like, there's something like kind of heavy hitting and explosive about the creativity that comes out of Santa Cruz. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit of kind of Santa Cruz kind of has a small town, big town kind of thing going on, you know, like we're close to Silicon Valley and all that, like big city, you know, San Francisco and stuff. So we get a bit of that influence, but also we're kind of like a small like surf town, you know, so it's got kind of like a lot of like those kind of flavors like stirring around, I feel like.
Right.
You know? And, kids that grew up here, they get, you know, you're influenced by like music and the culture around. And I mean, the surf skate culture is just like embedded into Santa Cruz so heavily, you know.
Right.
Sometimes like people that they're like, oh yeah, I grew up in Santa Cruz. You know, I'm like, oh, do you surf? And they're like, no. I'm just like, oh. How did you grow up in Santa Cruz, not surf?
Yeah, right, totally.
To me, it was just like a rite of passage. Like, you know, but my dad was a surfer, so I was a little more like close to the source, you know. I understand like not everyone's, you know, introduced to it, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was, but it's definitely just like embedded in the culture, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like even people that don't surf, they just love the ocean and they love what Santa Cruz stands for and everything.
Right. Yeah. It informs a lot of our identity, the history there, like surfing and skating and stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. Is that like, you know, I've collected a bunch of injuries over the years and just dealt with a lot of chronic pain issues, as I mentioned before. But like, how do you find the motivation and the time and energy to do some of these more youthful activities, like skateboarding and surfing, and especially now that with surfing, it's just to find a peak where it's you get some elbow room is really difficult, and a lot of frustrating beginners and stuff like that. But how do you still keep your love for those kind of passions alive?
Yeah, I mean, it can be tricky. I'm 56 now. And so, yeah, I definitely feel like my body, like reacting to overwork and, over indulging and stuff. So, definitely got to kind of know where your limits are, and like usually, I won't surf for longer than 2 hours, or, I still skate, try not to slam too bad or anything.
Concrete's not quite as
not forgiving.
No.
And try and stay in shape a bit and watch what I eat,
Yeah, totally.
Things like that. My son, he's active, so he helps me stay active too.
Yeah.
Things like that,
Totally. Sick.
Yeah.
And where are you headed next? Where's your next do you like to go on like little vacations like to Central America or Mexico, or little surf escapes to get away from the crowds and madness here in Santa Cruz?
Yeah. I mean, I was traveling a lot before the pandemic, and then that kind of put a stifle on it a bit. I'm starting to kind of branch out of that, and been going places now. So yeah, I definitely need to get some more surf trips in.
Yeah, that helped. That's one thing I've found that really helped keep that passion alive. You're in a new place, you're like, meeting different people, and it's harder to be outraged at what's happening at a surf break when it's not somewhere you live at. You're like,
exactly,
oh, fuck, I'm a visitor here too.
Right. It's humbling.
Other puts you on the other foot.
It's good for you for sure.
I think so too.
The more you can bring that mentality into your own town and life, it helps,
Yeah, because I know like a lot of guys, especially the guys who are getting a little bit older and who were part of the surf scene in the 80s when it was a lot different, when there was a lot more, heavy-handed, hierarchical type of stuff. And with the change in the crowds and stuff, it's like, oh, I don't surf anymore. Like, no one knows who I am out there. And it's just like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to just be like, dude, slap them and be like, fuck, come surf, dude. You're not going to give this up. Like, you can still have fun and enjoy yourself, but you kind of have to be prepared to not be like the fucking cool guy, or like everyone's going to know who you are to get the best wave. It's just like, and that's a hard thing, I think, with surfing. It's true. It's so tough.
One thing that helps me a lot is I just set my standards like really low. I'm like, I'm gonna go out there and catch one wave.
Yeah.
And I just like, that's my goal.
Right.
And then I always end up like doing more than that. So it's like I'm always like, oh, like I caught more than one wave. Awesome, So it kind of sets your trajectory on to be more stoked than what you set your mind to, So
yeah. And even like for me, sometimes just like riding a wave storm, riding a foamy and just going straight. It's like, fuck, if someone's going left and there's 4 people going right, it's like, no one's going straight.
Yeah.
I can go there. Like, I mean, it's just kind of a goofy way to look at it, but it's just, I mean, that's really why we fell in love with this, that feeling of being propelled through the ocean on the back of this beast of Mother Nature.
Yeah. I mean, it is, just being out in the water is like beautiful and so enjoyable, and people can be a distraction for that. But the more you can tap into that, just natural joy of being in the ocean and not having these expectations of just being the ripper or I'm killing it or whatever. You just go out there and like humbly catch a wave and cruise around, and at the end of the day, it doesn't, it's just like how much fun you got out of it, and that's really all that matters, And so the person that having the most fun is the one that's winning,
Exactly.
You could be out there and be the pissed off guy catching all the waves, but did you really have a great time,
Yeah, and who's gonna want to, send you a birthday card,
Right.
It's as much as we want to be feared and revered, it's like, it's much better to be loved and a brother to somebody,
Yeah.
At the end of the day. But
I mean, I grew up in the time when locals were harsh, and I had guys, do and say things to me that I still remember to this day, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it stuck. It was very like impactful, you know?
Fully,
I was
yeah.
riding home from the cove with my boogie board, and these two older surfer dudes that lived in my neighborhood were riding towards me, and one of them just spit right in my face, you know?
Yeah.
And that, I almost like quit surfing that day. I was just like, oh dude, these guys are assholes. Like, what the hell is it? You know, like,
That's like one of the most disrespectful things you could do to someone is spit your saliva in their fucking face.
And I was like, you know, 12 years old, or like the little kid on his bike.
Right.
I mean, like,
that
it
stuff
seems
stays
like
with
people,
you.
yeah, it's very impactful. But I always remember I was kind of like, I don't know about this, you know, surfing thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess one thing that's positive is that these kids who are learning, they might be like, when I'm out there, I might go, oh, these freaking punks, they don't respect. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that if they can avoid any of the trauma that I think was kind of like, dude, we're emotional creatures, dude. Like, it's not healthy to be around that kind of stuff.
Right.
People romanticize it a lot, and it's just like, you know, the real Santa Cruz. Well, maybe the real Santa Cruz was fucking ugly, you know, and maybe this is
it
better.
gets romanticized a lot. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. And history, we have humans have a really good way of reflecting on the past and kind of, you know, spit shining, you know, like
glossing over.
or like, I don't know. So, but it's just.
I mean, good vibes always goes farther than, you know, anything. So
yeah,
it's like, I was out the other day and this guy almost ran me over, and I think back in the day I probably would have yelled at him, but he didn't hit me, and you know, there was no harm, no foul. I was just just like, I don't want to ruin my session. I'm having fun, so I just brush it off, and overall it seemed like the best way to go because I still caught more fun waves, and I wasn't all pissed off, and you know,
didn't bring you down.
Yeah, it didn't bring me down. So
sick.
I mean, there is a time and place when maybe you got to say something to somebody because people can be dangerous out there, but
totally.
Also, not every little thing has to be like regulated and barked at, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, dude. Self-preservation, that means a lot.
I was out the hook this one day, and these guys were like going straight, basically, you know, at like the main peak.
Yeah.
And I was like right in them. I kind of saw what they were doing. So I just went on the other side, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go because they're going straight.
Yeah.
And then this other dude paddles out, and he goes on the other side of them. And
they blocked for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they went straight, and he like ran into him. And then he was the one that was all pissed off.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I just dodged that.
Yeah, guarantee. Yeah, well, that's smart. Maybe we should hire a couple of these guys to come out with me. That's got me thinking. Well, hey, Jimbo, this has been really fun. I'm stoked that you came on and to wrap out. And dude, you're a legend.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, for sure, Neil. Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, that was Jimbo Phillips. And again, this is Split Peak Soup Podcast. We're presented by Santa Cruz Vibes. You can go to www.scvibesmagazine.com to find really cool articles. I'm not just saying that because I'm the one that writes them. There's a couple other guys. But thank you guys so much, and we'll check in next time. See ya.
Cheers.